Hi there, welcome to Carcassonne. It's another Champions League match, this time between Fox1347 from RCP and Helge H from Sweden. Fox, a master, quite likely multiple peaks over 700, but currently rated F545, so nowhere near their peak rating, but 6,000 games of experience and surviving the onslaught that the RCP qualification was. 18 players, and I think 2/3 of them, maybe even more, masters. With a record of 8-1 match wins surely speaks volumes about their skill level. You really can't survive that if you don't know what you're doing. So I expect to see a good game from them. Same could be said about Helge, except he didn't need to survive any qualification as far as I know. He's just in air quotes, the highest rated Swedish Carcassonne player. Quite likely there is no one at his or on his level in Sweden apart from him. Multiple peaks over 700, top rating 750, I think. And well, more or less the same I said about Fox is true with Helge as well. Currently rated nowhere near the peak rating. In fact, right around 600. So both will swing to the bottom. We'll see who will be capable to find their A game today. I'd slightly favor Helge, just by virtue of knowing him or his playstyle better than Fox. And so we'll see. My picks weren't always great. But here we go. So Helge, the Swedish guy with the yellow meeples, and Fox will play blue today. Yeah, and the first one I would have played differently, just to not give this option, but continue this without interference, instead taking away a loop option from blue. Yeah, will Fox attack the city, or will they go for a more creative approach, like this, for example, trying to harass this square? Would have been interesting, but they use a rather standard approach, going for a new city next to the monastery, also giving this cap here, which works for yellow. Okay, didn't like to go for creation of a monastery square, instead slight obstruction of yellow. Yellow doesn't care about this for now, because there was another city to be claimed. Good for them. And Fox just goes on building up their city. Prime tile to do it, of course, the shielded extender. Nice farmer here, creating trouble for blue, because they really can't justify closing the city without, well, risking the health of their monastery, and vice versa. If they go here with the curve, for example, they'd give away an attacking spot to yellow. So again, the never old diagonal formation, that's always totally annoying and seldomly works in the favor of the one who's affected. looks like a nice monastery spot over here, also taking away an immediate field attack. So why not just go for it? I mean, yellow has the meeples. Score when you can. No restriction over here. Not that big of a deal. There are still 3 starting tiles out there. This here is more problematic. Yellow couldn't really play against this, else he'd have a city there and an easy restriction that also would threaten the kill over here. Therefore, just starting a new one on your field next to your monastery, definitely the saner approach. Blue goes for the kill, doesn't work. Could have also waited, but didn't like to. Or at least they get one of the 3 remaining starting tiles. Now there are only 2 left. And of course, they might get another crack at killing this city from the top. Likelier from the left side though, because then they'd also put pressure on yellow's monastery there. So blue gets to defend over here and attacks the farm because it was more or less the best shot they could get. Still 8 curves left. One in yellow's hand, and will they go next to the monastery and later try to create 2 sensitive squares for the city? They do. Of course, the likelihood of drawing anything to attack this city over here wasn't really that great. And they'd rather not allow blue too close to the city here while also pressuring the monastery. Next attack by blue, also endangering their city. And even the defense Helge maybe should have gone for, wouldn't have worked. Yeah, so city is dead. And he even kills the monastery just to take away this farming attack. And why not, if he manages to close the city, but stop the field right there, it was sure worth it, because then these 2 would be in a mini battle of 8 versus 3 points. Sure, we'd have to consider the city as well, so actually it would be 2 versus 1 meeple, or 12 versus 3 points, but that's still +9 for the 1 meeple and a worthy investment. Yeah, blue will quite likely defend here, given that there's only 1 starting tile left. Okay, they'd rather attack and create a sinister hamster here. Not sure that's the right priority in this case when there are 50-50 restrictions of your city out there and easy to execute. But the farming attack here, of course, works in so many ways. It might work out for them, even though I don't think it was the correct choice. For now, it definitely looks good for blue. But even taking over the field would still leave chances for yellow. because the field as of now isn't really worth that much. Blue gets a nice surprise from the deck. Ideal continuation here if you don't get a cap. Yellow does opt to create at least an attacking platform instead of going for a loop road as compensation, which would have also created the evil hamster. But at least they got the monastery and quite likely will now take this road, even if it's a bit annoying over here. But there are still 3 roses out there, so I don't see the harm. It's a 7-point road, no matter what. You get your meeple back, and if you don't, it might get restricted over here. The monastery, that is. But quite obviously, Helge has doubts whether he should take one of the caps, which would score 4 points as well. Problem with the left one here would be only one of these daggers remaining, so easy obstructions of the monastery available. Yeah, works out like a charm for him. And even though blue was able to close their city and now is currently in sole possession of this field, yellow is still ahead, even if it's just by a hair. Yeah, blue might just close this one here and add another farmer, because this one here works in many cases, and if not, you'd still have the root up top, and you take away the best farming option from yellow. Yellow does what they can against blue city here. Now they are, after this 8-point monastery, down by 14. Didn't get any love from the deck for this city up top. Daggers went to blue here. Doritos, of course. So yellow might need to use caps up top to close the city if they want to go for it, which surely is annoying. So going for a restriction here surely works nice, but why not meeple this road? Just in case blue gets one of these roses, and there still were 2 out there. At least would share the road, or would force blue to share the road with you to get a meeple back, and you have the meeple majority. So yeah, not ideal leaving this straight empty. And these tiny slip-ups could hurt badly in the end. So the field is at 18 points now, if I see this correctly. But there are 3 blue farmers versus only 1 from yellow. So it doesn't look likely that yellow still has a good chance to take this over. Especially because the usual piece to go for double attacks is gone. Both road monasteries not available anymore. I'm not a huge fan of this one, because it possibly creates a secondary 9-point field, even if blue would add both caps to their field. Hey, MTU. Oh, by the way, this one here was played from yesterday to today. It will be wiped once this first game here completes. So this is still the first game. Let me refresh. So, yeah, Helge snatches a 6-point field on the left side, while blue closed the road there. So 4 points that yellow didn't score. Just keep that in mind. Again, there are still 3 road ends out there. Why do you leave this empty? You have the 2 meeples in hand, use them. So 7 points, which all hurt. Yeah, Helge, claim the 1 or not? There's the last cap to do so. Problem, of course, being that blue quite likely would immediately add something on top to take away the 6-point / 9-point field option later on. No starting tile left, so setting up this road doesn't work anymore. Claiming a few points somewhere would be nice. And also adding a cap onto your field as well. This at least is creative. There's still a cow out there. And if not, a splitter would work wonders. Splitter plus, yeah, this setup. So splitter for the 6-point field, equalizing this farmer. But then you wouldn't get the 4 points from the city. So again, I think this farmer might have been a must, even if it only works in 35–40% of cases, because for sure blue would try to kill the city. But if you're at -13 and there's not much hope left, sure would have been a great chance. Yeah, indirect protection would work in this case. There are no starting tiles left. There is the cow, of course, and, well, the splitter as well. But if blue draws the splitter, it's quite likely game over anyway. On the other hand, you don't even need to protect. I mean, the protection takes away the quad city. But if that were to land there, maybe drawing the cow would be enough compensation. So Helge this time goes the scoring route, creates a nice monastery spot, is able to use it, but now the city gets killed. And he's still at -9. 7 points for splitter and vanilla on the right side. But no way to outrun 3 of blue's meeples. Yeah. Yeah. This setup here is a must. Or do I miss something better? I don't think so. So setting up a 4-point road, hoping to draw a curve on your next turn, then Having 2 meeples for your remaining moves would sure be fine. Oh, but blue gets a 5-point rule in somewhere, either left or top. Extending the lead to 13. Yeah, Helge quite likely will set up another city on his field. Yeah, sure, in the safe space. And that's too little and too late. So max seed score would be 5 over here, 4 for the road, 1 for the monastery, plus 7 there. That's 12 points, but he's a 13 down. And that's not even accounting for any points blue would score, like the 5 they could take now. Or over here if they prefer. Okay, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Sure, you'd score 8 overall, but why if there are 10? Or if you get the splitter 9. But this imprecision doesn't cost blue anything, so it won't matter. Yeah, but we'll see about the second game in a minute or so. So in the end, yeah, right, the 6-point field was still there. So Helge could have scored 7 plus 6, so 13 points, and not just the 12 I counted. Doesn't matter though. So first one goes to Fox. 11 points in the end. Yeah, these small things here, they hurt. Of course, the big things like the killed city, and especially this one in the middle, the 18-pointer as well. But in the end, both not with utmost precision. We'll see if this changes for the next one. Let's take a quick look at the stats. So looks like slightly better tiles for Fox. A bit more caps, less roads. That's in many cases appreciated, both with 1 road monastery. So at least that's fair. Did they say something about the break? They didn't. Then I'd expect them to continue in a few seconds. Yeah, and more big cities for Helge, which in most cases is more annoying than it helps. So we'll see whether this will change or not in the second one. Yeah, this time it's Fox being the starting player. Of course it is, because they just play a regular game with a slow time. So around 250 thinking time max, 254, increment around 45 seconds. So basically, they could take at least half a minute for each and every move to think all its implications through. But some folks just don't do that. I mean, Helge is definitely capable of blitzing out games. I mean, he is the organizer of the Carcassonne Blitz series, although it's on long-term hiatus currently, I think. Don't know when the last tournament has taken place, actually. But in Champions League play, he usually at least thinks a few seconds about his moves. Yeah. Also another annoying configuration. 3 different features next to each other, culminating into one square that could be killed. And with 3 of 7 pieces to go here, or rather 2 of 6, let's not count the original starting tile, gone. Helge goes for it, has to defend now, because any city over here, okay, any city over there would immediately kill this one. He goes for the indirect defense, which still gives blue these 2, but the likelihood of getting either a curve, no, it doesn't make sense, right? Why would he limit this to 2 starting tiles if he could have gone with the straight here to limit to 2 roses? Yeah, so then the only question is, what's more likely, getting 1 of 2 or getting 1 of 4 before your opponent gets 1 of 2? In addition to them possibly drawing another starting tile or rose and then limiting your square here to a 50-50. Yeah, definitely a question I need to check in the replay. At least Helge gets to defend the monastery square, but quite likely now will protect this one because there is only 1 starting tile left, but there are still a lot of curves and the 2 road monasteries, so 9 pieces over here to restrict this to a 50-50. Still doesn't go for it. Surely doesn't like direct saving approaches. So, well, then it's on blue to do something over here. I'd say this here would be in order, taking 2 points, giving them the chance to either restrict to 50-50 or kill it with the daggers. Else, you might have a trickier situation later on. Okay, Mateusz likes this. Yeah, I see the merits. I guess you don't like this one. Would have preferred a move over here as well, because if you don't go there, the road Doritos cows all help yellow, indirectly protecting their city and road and monastery. Yeah, here we go. Pretty sure yellow will now indirectly protect, just like I sketched. And if not, then I'd consider this a terrible mistake, because this is your best shot to increase the likelihood of getting road and city finished at least. And if not, well, then you still risk the kill here and losing 3 meeples, which quite likely would end very badly. Yes, so at least he finds this. Yeah, blue should have used this here. Thanks for the confirmation. Exactly like that. No, like this. So the curve still fits. And the dagger. Yeah, what does blue do? They create a big monster up top. Unlikely to be closed soon and at all, frankly. That's just so unwieldy. Yellow tried to attack this city, or at least the other new city somewhere safe. I mean, that's not valuable enough to go for something like that. I'd rather just add this to the city. Go here, and if blue later wants to attack here, let them. It's not worth enough. Penultimate rose gone to blue. So yellow has only 2 tiles left. But there is only one to force the 50-50. That is the remaining left-handed dagger. So at least yellow is still more likely to get one of their pieces and to close this one. So MTU causes a trash can. Well, as long as it's not a trash can fire, I think it could work for blue. At least it scores a good amount of points, 8 so far. Also here, decision by yellow, not going for this one, hoping to get 3 meeples liberated with 1 piece, but playing it securely, giving them 6 outs to liberate both monasteries possibly. Shame that blue claimed this, at least if you're yellow, and they don't close this now. Blue's field quite valuable, so ideally yellow would restrict to the starting tile here and then get it themselves. But this time blue protects their city, which they didn't in the first game. Yellow doesn't immediately go for the farm here. There's still time to do that, and the second meeple in hand for the time being might be worth more than the farming attack could be, especially because blue will or would get the chance to add a second farmer if they manage to close their city. Yeah, MTU is criticizing this one here, the vanilla by, excuse me, the vanilla by Helge, because it's more likely that blue would claim this field here, as blue has the meeple majority as long as yellow's situation here isn't resolved in their favor. But we'll see. Yellow is hanging in there. Still with a grip, not by a thread. -7, -10 now, but surely could really need this one. Don't know how often I encircled that square by now. I mean, I think I'm at a dozen. There's only one road Dorito left, so could even consider the extender over here to at least pressure square. But actually, there's only one cap left to close this immediately. Only the one rose. This here is trying to get this meeple back, leaving the kill right there for blue to execute, which they did. So this meeple here is definitely gone, which isn't a big problem for yellow, but it's rather a pity because for sure they would have loved to take this city as well. Problem being all caps that fit over there were primed to use on the right side. Blue indirectly adds another city to their field, still needing a curve to do this. But they might also use a curve over here just to get the meeple and a point. Now that at least one of yellow's monasteries is dead. Yeah, nice idea by yellow. Really nice idea. Setting up cows here for 3 points and a killing threat. Didn't work. They had the road Doritos, so this could have been used there as well. But at least this only leaves the one rose for Blue City on the left side. So at least some good news for yellow. Yeah, nicely setting up a loop road here, also creating the threat of killing this one, which they could go for now. They want to really roll the dice. They could also take 4 points and set up an evil hamster, but you'd rather not help the city meeple. Yeah, but Fox gets the remaining starting tile as well. So definitely no great draws by yellow here. And now there's only the rose left. And well, looks like yellow has to set up this monastery square. Why not? There are still 2 monasteries out there that you won't use here. And in some cases, you might even use the road monastery there just to not give this city to blue. Although if they now add a second farmer, you quite likely will, because this monastery spot just improved for yellow, and the value decreased for blue. So it's worth now 6 points for blue, but 12 for yellow, because this city here would only count once, not for both fields anymore. Okay, Helge doesn't liberate the monk. Instead, he creates an option which would him give an attack against this city, which is definitely not ideal, because the immediate restriction or kill option would be available to Fox in this configuration. But after all this, he's only down by 13 points. Might now take away one of these caps. Maybe like this. He takes the other one. Yeah, but another 7 points. Now it's 20. So monastery rose, and he's back in business. Another monastery would be great, of course, but he needs these tiles to hit ASAP. Else he'd be just running out of time, out of moves, more precisely, to do anything, and yeah, this is game over. There's nothing that he still could do. At minus 22, even the monastery only cuts the difference here in half. Although road monastery, regular monastery, 19 points. How about that? Let's hope, because I'd sure like to see a decider. Gets a second meeple back, but he also gives a third meeple to blue, so blue quite calmly should take 6-point field on the left side, right side, that is. Yeah. Still nothing great. This city here might be okay. There's no blocking option available, and if he closes this on his next turn, could drop a 9-point farmer. I mean, there's not much else. Drop the 9-point farmer, get the road monastery. Nah, not even this works. Oh, he goes for this farm. Yeah. Hey there. I don't know, something crashed and my machine was unresponsive, but at least it happened in a game that was already decided. Yeah, not the best of games here. Definitely not ideal for yellow. I mean, here looks okay, 13-9. That's what you should expect sometimes. But the problem, of course, is if you need one of these tiles and your opponent gets all of them, because this one, which Helge drew, he already had placed when he needed one of the other. Yeah, was sure shitty luck at this situation. So this was in the early game. Very early game. Yeah, and that's what here. Yeah, looks like. Give me a second. Okay, this is what a thread, a single simple obstruction can do to a game. So Helge went here, using his moves efficiently, going for the road as well, which seems not that big of a problem, but it became one. So then yeah, it's basically the perfect storm for blue. One of the daggers was already gone, so Helge protected. Didn't want to see the immediate restriction to 2 tiles, rather take his chances getting one of the remaining 4. And I totally get it. Yeah. But the alternative, starting this one here, just hoping that your opponent won't get anything to restrict, would have been considered as well. But I don't see what else he could have done. Maybe just don't even go there, right? Let's rewind and consider this again. If it loads, can't go twice to the same move. Of course. Yeah, you can't use this monastery square, that's for sure. Else you get restricted over here to the starting tile. So Mateusz says he would go like Helgen. No. Okay. So you'd use the starting tile over here and go for this the road. Yeah. I might as well. Because if you don't go there, well, you could over here, just dump the cap, take this road, which would be a safer configuration, not for this city, but in overall terms. So safe road, safe monastery. And if blue closes their city, in many cases, you just get either something to preempt any restriction, or at least maybe let's give them a vanilla, and you just get a straight to protect the square, and you just have to wait a few moves to go there. Yeah, I mean, if you want to really play it safe, I think this might be your best shot, which also takes away this restriction, which is unlikely with blue city up top, but nonetheless could still happen. And on the other hand, you put a bit of pressure on blue city because you might use a Dorito like that if at some point maybe this is still there, this configuration, and maybe a horse is already gone. On the other hand, it's way more likely you'd use the Dorito over here if it's a field Dorito. So yeah, the natural looking move definitely wasn't ideal. I was having these three here entangled on this one square. That's always annoying. Even if blue doesn't immediately get a curve, but for example, gets a straight, then you are dealing with an equally annoying, not equally, but an also annoying configuration. In this case, this would be better due to the dagger asymmetry, because you still have 3 of the left-handed daggers in the deck. And you could, for example, just extricate your road here and at least separate concerns. So at most, 2 of your meeples would get killed. Everything else after this here, which Helge tried, seemed to be okay, except, yeah, sure, for this one. I mean, I get it. The problem, though, is you give your opponent a 1-2 punch to kill this. So any city piece from the bottom kills 3 meeples, and it's basically game over if it happens that early. And you at most score 14 points for these 3 meeples, so 3 each, 8 for the monastery. So yeah, I'd surely consider this one. Even if there are only 2 daggers out there, at least your opponent would need to invest something over here. And if they want to kill this for real, then they need to invest 3 pieces. So 3 out of 36 moves. That's at least a good concession. But yeah, could have worked. Didn't. Yeah, still interesting that blue never tried to restrict this even more, and that yellow didn't go for a 75% as well. But I think I've talked enough about this when I was live. So let me just stop it here. Tomorrow, I think there is no Champions League match scheduled so far. I might be covering the Belgian Carcassonne Online Championship quarterfinals, but I'm still not sure. If not, well, I'll see you for another Champions League stream. Quite likely Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever will be scheduled. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you around. Bye-bye.